ladies. We are back.
Welcome
We missed you. I
back.
missed you. I missed our space. I
We
missed it.
did.
I needed goodness. I hope you ladies enjoyed the break. I hope you had time to catch up on all of the previous episodes. I definitely hope you all got the opportunity to watch our panel discussion. If you didn't, please go check that out. We will link it below. Okay. How you feeling? How you feeling about season 2?
I mean, I feel great. I'm glad to be back speaking with the ladies. I can't believe we're on season 2 already. Like, this is just an idea in our heads.
And it flew by.
A while back. Yeah. And now all of a sudden we're on season 2. So
crazy.
And I'm actually looking forward to it. Do you know what I mean? Sharing space with you guys has just been nice to kind of open up our personal conversations with you. Yes. So as we're learning, we're sharing. As we're healing, we're sharing.
Yes. Yes. On that note, ladies, we're gonna jump right in season 2. We're gonna talk about feminism. What is feminism?
Right. Can I give them a backstory?
Give them a backstory.
Oh no, look at me cutting you off. My bad, bro. Go ahead.
No, it's fine.
Literally just cut you right off.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, right. There's one thing that I hear a lot in this journey when I speak to people about feminism. I don't really like to call myself a feminist. I've always just said I believe in equal rights. One, that shouldn't have a special name. And obviously feminism in its traditional sense is kind of catered towards, well, not traditional, but in a sense now, it's kind of catered towards Western white women, right? They don't really care about us. So this is why I always identify more with Kimberly Crenshaw's intersectionality, you know, because she thinks about us and all the different layers of it. However, what I hear a lot on this journey is from other women. They say to me, well, I'm not a feminist, Taste. You know, and I think to myself, when they say that, I'm like, what do you mean by you're not a feminist?
Like, do you know what it means?
Do you know what it means?
Believe that you should have equal rights?
Right, you know, so that's what I realized a lot. So this is basically why we decided to do this episode, because we want to delve into what it is when you say that. What does that what are you saying? What does that actually mean? Because I feel like a lot of women are just moving off of indoctrination. And it's like, you know, I don't even like to use the term pick-meism because I know it sounds like it's degrading, but it is to an extent. And you've been groomed to kind of feel like that. You know, it's like when a Black person says, I'm not pro-Black. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
You know, and they say it and I'm like, you don't see how weird that is. How can you be not yourself?
Right.
So when I hear women, I've had so many women say that to me. I'm not a feminist though, you know, and I'm like, because.
But even the fact that you're groomed to see the difference, because most of us would say immediately after we heard somebody tell the world that they're not pro-Black or they don't like Black people and they're Black, immediately most people understand that you have a problem.
Right.
You know, there might be a couple that agree with that, but most people will understand that you have a problem. But the fact that it is so normalized to feel that way about the woman, that you can say out loud as a woman, I'm not pro-woman. I'm not pro my liberty, my freedom. You know what I mean? Like, because that's all it is. I've actually had a few women say, you know, I'm not a feminist because I want to be in a relationship and I want to be
with a man. Yeah.
I want to be with somebody. I want to be married, you know, so I'm not a feminist. And I'm like, so you can't be in a relationship and be feminist?
Equal?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your relationship is based off of the fact that the man has to dominate you, essentially. Because I hear that one a lot as well. They're like, you know, I'm not opposed to men leading, you know, and I'm like, okay.
Why though? Why? Is it because he is actually a better leader? Is it because you and him together, you're like, nah, I'm not really good at handling certain positions and I think that he better suits the position if we're going to work together? Is that why? Or is it because like he's just shown you immaculate leadership abilities and qualities? Or is it because you've been told that somebody has to be above the other person in a relationship, so therefore somebody has to be leading, and you believe that he is just innately
the leader? Has he shown you leadership qualities? And I mean, like real, like we spoke about in the Pow Talks, has he shown you real leadership qualities? Do you know what I mean? What is leadership though? Because leadership, like we established, is not dominance and oppression. Right. That is not actual leadership, you know, it's guidance. And also there's this notion that we always believe that we need to be led. Right. Women need to be led and women need to be submissive. You have to ask yourself why. You're not a second-class citizen.
You know, why do you feel the need and do that either?
This is why, and I always say that.
Who's the leader in our relationship?
I'm the leader, and I'm the leader. Lead.
I'm the leader.
No, but I want to be the leader. See how mad it is, though.
It's crazy.
You know what?
I'm the leader of all my friends.
Like literally, I am. And
you know how crazy that sounds? No,
and
but
all my friends submit to me.
You know, but like, you see how the friendship is still a relationship. Exactly. It can be mutually beneficial because we're in each other's lives and we reciprocate energy. There are things you bring to me and there are things that I bring to you. That's why the relationship works. Your relationship that is romantic would operate the same way, right? You guys are coming together. So you would be working together.
Friendship has to be the basis,
you feel
right?
like it should be the basis. And the fact that you feel like somebody has to lead for that relationship to work, the only reason why that changes is because you're involved intimately. So then there's this feeling of possession. People feel like they possess, people don't like they own people. Right. So when you're in a relationship, you're like, well, you belong to me, you're mine.
Right.
That's a problem too, because people don't belong to us. Like they're not yours.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
You know, you're mine. And then on top of it, I'm the leader. You have one person declaring themselves the leader. So it just doesn't work like that. You have to come together the same way you do in friendships. Like it's a mutually beneficial relationship where you guys reciprocate the same level of energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and accomplish whatever goals you all have made for yourselves. But the fact that you think that somebody needs to lead you is a problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you don't need to, like, you are a whole human being who's capable of, you know, functioning and leading herself. And in fact, if you want to coming together also doesn't mean you're led. It means you're coming together and you both have equal inputs, you know?
Equal input.
But, you know, we say that anyway to say that. So we are not, it's not about we're against relationships or we're against, you know, unionizing with a man, right? We're only literally saying if you're going to do that, just make sure that the person that you're with is treating you nicely, you know, so that you can have the best quality of life and the best relationship. Because all around us, especially as women, what we tend to find is that our relationships are always problematic for us. We all have the same trauma stories. You know, almost every woman you speak to, 99.9% of us have a traumatic story from a relationship with a man and being treated badly. So obviously, the only rational thing for my brain to do is to think about ways in which we can have better experiences in these relationships. And this is what we speak about. Some of the things that we talk about in Pow. It's not that we're saying don't have a relationship. What we're saying is, whilst you're inside the relationship, make sure that you are having a phenomenal experience, you know? So these things that we say or the advice that we offer is never, as far as we're concerned, for your detriment. It's only to enhance your quality of life, to uplift your confidence, to empower you so you can have a truly fruitful relationships. Just because all around us, we see negative relationships all the time. We see heartbreak, we see pain. So how do we rectify that? By having these conversations and providing, I mean, when I was younger, I would ask, you know, what is, how do you know when you're in love? You know, I used to ask questions like that. And I would just get, you know, the simple, you just know. And now I realize it's because they themselves didn't know. Right. Because you're not taught these things. You're going into it blindly with this Beauty and the Beast Cinderella notion, because that's what you've been fed. You have no idea what it's like to have it. So
how do you know if you've never seen it?
Do you know what I mean?
How do you know if it wasn't an example in your household? And if you haven't had those kind of examples and experiences yourself, how are you just supposed to know?
Exactly. And you don't. So what happens is you start using these false notions of love that you see on TV, the Cinderella, the Beauty and the Beast, all of these things. And then they cause you to be in these messed up situations and relationships like we have been time and time again. So literally, this is why we have these conversations, to ensure that you actually do now start to have healthy, fruitful, beneficial, happy relationships.
Right.
It's not so that you don't have a relationship. Like if you're listening to something that we're saying and you're thinking, oh my God, well then maybe double check that relationship, you know, maybe double check that, because everything we speak about and everything we preach is to create a nice, safe, healthy, happy environment for ourselves, you know. And if, you know, if you're in a situation like that, we would never speak against it. We'd herald it, go girl. You know what I mean? Like, we love
because
that
we
for
deserve
you.
it. We deserve
Yeah,
it.
we love it for you. Like,
and I feel like you know, it's always confusing to me why declaring your autonomy and just saying I want to live a certain quality life. I want to you know, have my own independence and be able to live life how I choose. And no matter how that translates, no matter if that means you're a woman that wants to be married or in a relationship, poly, monogamous, you know, whatever that looks like for you. If you are a woman and you immediately judge another woman that's considering herself a feminist or somebody that's for women's rights, and you assume that means that, you know, I must not be that. You have to disassociate yourself with it because you feel like you co-signing that person or saying that you agree with the message means that you don't like men or that you don't want to be in a relationship. And I think anytime I've had anybody say anything like that to me, I find myself, you know, just confused on how to even explain, you know what I mean? Like if you're talking to somebody in that moment, I don't ever know what to say in that moment.
Yeah,
like,
I kind of ask them, I say, how comes? I always I'll say, how comes? And the answer is always very weird. You know, it's always very just the same. They will literally say, well, because I want a man. And I know, I mean, I think that the man should lead some. I know, I think he should have like 51% and I'll have 49. Those are the two answers that I hear. Yeah.
But you know what it does to me? It just makes it more evident that how oppressed women are, because saying that you want to live a certain way and saying that you want to be free from an oppressive system and saying that you want equal rights, you want to be paid equal wages, you know, you want your abuse to be taken serious, you don't want to deal with double standards. Like saying that out loud immediately translates as you don't like men or you don't want to be in a relationship. And I think those who get it, you know what I mean? And you can hear it in the conversations. And people who don't get it, it's going to be a crazy awakening, because it's like you are so blinded. You know, for so long, Black people, we were blinded. Like, and we know that we've been through a lot of trauma, you know, for hundreds of years, right? But we now, most of us now, because of these campaigns, you know, for all these groups to look like they support us, most of us now understand that we are still systemically oppressed globally. And you look at that and you see it for what it is, and you understand that, like, declaring your rage and protesting and fighting and standing up doesn't mean that you it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It means that you want your liberation. I feel like that's something that we've established. So it's so odd to me why people cannot take that same like line of thinking and just apply it. You are so blinded to the oppression of women. I hear people say women aren't even oppressed anymore.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
we think we're free.
Like, oh, you guys get to speak up more now, or you guys. I'm like, we can speak up more now.
It's crazy, yeah. You know, and even though we're still in situations whereby like some churches say that women can't be priests, you know what I mean? That we actually can't, we're not allowed to speak to God, you know, like in the same way. This is the system that we live in. We have to put laws in place for men to give us jobs and roles. Like, for example, the Nigerian government, right? They passed this just a couple of days before International Women's Day. I think 96.5 men are in all the leadership positions in Nigeria, in the cabinet, in the government. So they wanted to pass laws to allow more women positions, and they ruled against it. There's 96.5% of them that dominate it, and they ruled against it. And people will still say, well, what are you talking about? You don't have any issues. Yes, we do. You guys out, just like how white supremacy has laws to make sure that we are pressed down, society also has laws to make sure that women are pressed down.
Right.
And even the laws that we try to fight for, they tell us that we don't have to fight for it. Right. So I'm just thinking to myself, you're not seeing the problem. And it's very problematic that when we speak about, because the things we talk about are things that are detrimental to us and our well-being, right? And our qualities of life. So when I say that and you say to me, I hate men, it's very problematic that you see those things as what it is that makes a man. Negative things. Right? Because if I'm telling you, I don't like, I want equal rights. I don't want anybody to tell me what to wear. I don't want anybody to tell me where I can go. I don't want anybody to sexually harass me because, they think they can. And, I say that and you go, well, I mean, I need a man. I don't hate men. You hate men. Like, should you not hate those things too? Why are you seeing those? Because I'm not seeing that as a man thing. I'm seeing that as this is an oppressive thing. I don't want anybody to do it. But if that is all you see men as, I'm saying that men can be better.
Right.
I'm literally saying they can be better.
And if I want a man, I don't want a man that condones that
does these things. But you see that as that is all men are. So all men are like that. So I hate all men because I'm, condemning this negative thing that they do. That's really problematic.
It actually further proves your point. That so many of them are like that because you have to say, no, I'm not with that. Cause it's like, that's all we're talking about. That's all feminism is. Right. You know what I mean? And you know what else it shows too? It shows that in this oppressive state, which is normal, you can't see the ways in which you are oppressed. We might even need to do a whole separate episode about.
Oh, we do, girl.
The different ways that we are still oppressed today, because I keep hearing it. Oh, women are not oppressed anymore. You know what I did? I had a conversation with a few people. Was it last week? I walked into a room. It was some men and some women in the room. And I know that we're oppressed, right? I know that because I'm oppressed. Black people, we know that we're oppressed. You know what I mean? White people don't see it. Of course they don't. And men don't see our oppression. And that is the point of intersectionality. It's like double jeopardy in terms of oppression.
Literally.
You know what I'm saying? But I walked in the room and I asked the women and the men in the room, who is oppressed more? Or who is oppressed between the two groups, men and women? And I said Black men and Black women. That's what I said first. Between Black men and Black women, who's oppressed more? And the men were like, men. And I was like, okay. I was like, and then the women were like, of course, they were like, what? Y'all are oppressed more? Okay.
Wait, not one man, all the men said men, right? All of them.
All the men said men. And one of them was he felt like it was a trick, but I could tell he wasn't saying it with how he feels. He just was trying to answer the question right. So he was like, you know what? Because he saw the men say men and he's just trying to read my face. So I had a poker face on. I don't want you to know whether I agree or disagree with him. And he was trying to gauge what he thought I wanted. He was like, you know what? I don't know. Women might
just be honest, brother.
Maybe in some ways women are, and in some ways men are. And I was like, okay. And so then I asked them, I was like, let me ask y'all another question. So if we're not talking about race between men and women, who's oppressed more? The men were, well, obviously the women know the answer, but the men were like, women, probably women.
Wow.
I said, so, because
wow.
Yeah, they said probably women.
That, Jazz. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, Black woman. Oh, this is why we love you. Honestly, my
because we're not women. We're not women.
My darlings, and we're
not women.
You.
We're not women.
God, Jasmine, that's the oh my God. Hell.
The Blackness makes us inhuman. And because we're not human, we're not women. Because because they could see the oppression when we're talking about men
whiteness
overall and white women,
general,
because white women are delicate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're women.
But when it's Black men and Black women, no, we're more oppressed than you are. That's crazy.
Yeah. They don't even see us. They don't even see us.
I was not expecting that answer.
I wasn't expecting it either. I wasn't expecting it either.
Oh, blew me away.
Yeah,
but yeah, exactly. This is the reason that we have these sorts of conversations. Do you know what I mean? So when you're saying I'm not a feminist, you have to ask yourself, what is it about feminism you don't like?
Right.
And it's the fact that you think that feminism says you don't need a man. No, what feminism says is that you don't deserve to be oppressed, and you deserve an equal quality of life. And anybody else who tells you different is lying to you. In fact, if you do your own research, you'll see exactly what it is that, if you call yourself a feminist, what it is you campaign for. What is it about the movement that tells you that it is bad for you? You know what I mean? Like, do your own research. Don't let them fill your brain with rubbish. You know, ask yourself before you're so quick to say, I'm not a feminist. And I've had a few friends who've said that, and I'm sure, I feel like if I mention it to them now, they might be embarrassed to say that they've said it. And I'm like, why though? Why are you not a feminist? And in fact, it's because of you. Remember, I would not even ask. When women would say that to me, I would ignore them. Honestly, I don't have the space. Mm-hmm. So if you're like, I'm not a feminist, I'm like, okay, I literally just say, fine, I don't care. But I remember having a conversation with you about it, and you were like, well, you know what, you should ask them, you know. So then depending on who it is, I might say to you, oh, okay, so why are you not a feminist? And oftentimes, not even oftentimes, every single time, the conversation ends with like, oh, wow, okay, well, I didn't know that that's what it was about. Yeah. Because they will say,
you know what, I like to do a personal survey. I like to do a personal survey. I'll ask a certain number of women, just a certain number of women around me, different age groups.
If I has a poll as well.
Yeah, that'd be nice to just do a poll.
To just see if
women I come in contact with.
Put it on this episode as well. Yeah. Actually, there's a poll I can add to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just to ask a few questions. Are you a feminist? And why? Yeah.
It'd be very interesting, you know, because it's so important. Like, how many women? This is what I always say, that we don't understand the level of oppression that women are going through. But like you said, you know, when it's Black issues, you can kind of see certain things and see where the problem is. But when it's the woman, you're still so ostracized for speaking out. I remember reading a book by Chimamanda. I can't remember which one it was. I think it's We Should All Be Feminists. Was it? No, is that the one? What's the one I told you to read? Was it We Should All Be Feminists? Or the one about Dear Ijewela. Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm killing the name Chimamanda. But yeah, and she talks about, you know, when she talks about race, I remember saying it to her, I said, wow, because this is how I feel. When she speaks about race, you know, she has a certain level of people understand and it's not so bad. But when she speaks about women's issues, she feels so lonely because she feels like she's the only one who thinks like that. And I was like, oh my God, you know, that is literally how I've been feeling. You know, the more and more I came into awakening, especially about the issues that we face as women, the more alone I would feel, because I'm like, this is crazy what we're going through, but people can't see it. It's like I'm mad, you know? Yeah. And that's exactly how I feel even when I hear women say, you know, I'm not a feminist. It's quite sad. Yeah. You know?
That remind me, I remember, and I think I might have told you before, but I remember riding in the car with my dad a couple times going to school. And I would always talk to him about, you know, at that age, I would think I was like in like maybe 13, 14, you know, and I'm going from middle school to high school, you know, those ages. And I remember asking him, like, why is it that girls can do the same things that boys do and they get a bad reputation? And he's like, you know, that's just the way things are. And I'm like, yeah, but why is it like that? And throughout my life, I always would ask him certain questions about men and women and why it was like that. And I remember one day he told me, he said, you know, a lot of these questions you ask me, he said, I don't necessarily agree with it. He said, I just know it's always been like that. He said, but to be honest, he said, I never even thought about it until you started asking me those questions. He said, I just knew that's the way things were. And I just, you know, and also he's the man. So it's a different layer of protection he gets from it being that way. You know what I mean? So he wouldn't think about it. It doesn't affect him negatively. Well, it affects him negatively, but they don't realize it.
Not in the same way.
You know what I mean? Not in the same way. Yeah. And so it's like, it's those kind of moments that made me realize that I've always seen this thing. I've always seen the differences, and it always used to bother me, from a young age. I remember even like going to Bible study, and I was talking to my aunt. She's a pastor, and I remember it was a bunch of us. It was a bunch of family in the room, and we were talking. We had Bible study, and we were talking about like the man's role and the woman's role, and the man is the head, and all of these different things. And my question was, why is it that the man is the leader, or why is it that the woman is supposed to be, in this position? I just always ask why. And they said, that's because that's what the Bible says. And I'm like, okay, but why is it like that? I'm like, because if somebody is a good leader, shouldn't they lead, period? Or why does anybody have to lead anybody? Why can't, I think somebody said, well, because behind every good man is a good woman, as if that answers my question technically, like I'm asking. But I'm like, it doesn't answer my question. But I'm like, but if that's the case, why isn't it besides? Like, why can't you work together? And then, and I never understood that. I remember being told, like, you don't question God. And I'm like, well, I'm not questioning God. I'm questioning you, because I want you to explain to me, why is it like that?
Exactly.
Make it make sense. Maybe it's something I didn't know. And if there's a reason why, explain it to me. And I think what's beautiful is too, what we spoke about earlier. Ladies, we got some beautiful things coming up for you this season. So, but what we spoke about earlier when we were talking about the genetic superiority of women, I think what's powerful about that book is the fact that the title says it all. Exactly. Genetically, we are superior, period. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's no debate. Long run too, there's not even just a small bit. We talk about like the fact that women mature faster and develop at a different rate. And, when women are on the job gets handled in a different kind of way. When you are in your household, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or a working mom, either way, you are running businesses in both positions. You are a leader from birth. You are very fierce from birth, and you are very strong. And most women handle literally everything in their households, like literally. So when I think about the power and the strength that women hold, and it's like, you don't see that. And genetically, it is proven that we are superior. And all feminism is saying, it's not saying, hey, women need to be ruling men, because that's a problem. Everybody is obsessed with wanting to rule somebody and be the leader of somebody and want somebody to be subservient. It's like women are literally saying, like, even though genetically we're superior, you know what I'm saying? We just want equal rights. We want y'all to pay us our wages. You know what I'm saying? Like, show us respect. No, you can't touch my body. I don't got these shorts on for you. Stop sexualizing my body. I put these shorts on because I thought I looked cute. Like, please, we just want equality, despite the fact that we're genetically superior.
Right.
It's not like that.
Do you know what I mean? And it's funny that you say that, right? Do you remember the one thing I used to say all the time about when you just mentioned the things that we want, right? And I know it sounds trivial, but we have to think about how deep our oppression is, right? And down to our bodies, right? Not even having controls over your bodies. Like, we don't even want to start talking about our rights with our bodies, because we have no rights as far as men are concerned. Right. But the demonization of the female form is something that weighs heavily on my chest, and people don't, when I say it's like I'm being insane. The fact that a man can walk down the street without a shirt on, his nipples can be in show, he can just be free, like how we were born and how we were meant to be, because we weren't supposed to be wearing clothes anyway. Nothing happens to him. If I do the same, I can be arrested for indecent exposure. Like, you know how crazy that is? I can't walk down the road because my boobs are so demonized and in the exact same form. And what is the reason? Now, if you say that they're sacred because they feed, right? Exactly. So that means, why are you sexualizing them? Why can I not walk down the street topless? Even saying that makes sounds lewd, that's not what it is, right?
Because it's not because they're sacred. It's because your boobs are looked at. Yes. They're their playthings.
Sexually, exactly.
And they look, these are, and you making me lust after you right now, and I will not be held responsible for attacking you because you walking around with my playthings out. That's how they look at it.
Literally that.
And if you do that, I have a right to touch you, and you can't blame somebody if they do.
And everybody says that. That's the scary part of it, because
and
nobody sees how problematic that is, that in my natural form, I can't even my body is so demonized that there's a group of people, we're both supposed to be the same. They can walk down the street however they like. They can have no top on. Nobody says a word to them. But if I do the same, even women, everybody would say that I'm wrong for doing that. I should have covered it up. If I'm now attacked for it. And then my body's, how dare you demonize my body to that extent? So I'm like, that's even how deep our oppression goes to that. And people don't even recognize it.
No.
They don't recognize it at all. And then you say, oh, I'm not a feminist, and I'm just like, sit with yourselves. Honestly, ladies, just sit with yourselves and ask yourselves, why is it that you say you're not a feminist? And if it's because you feel like you can't have a relationship, well, obviously no. I hope that we have clarified for you how we feel about relationships, in the beginning of this episode. We're not against them at all. We just want you to have a phenomenal time in your relationships because you deserve it. And there's just so many women constantly who have such horror stories in relationships. So all we're doing is saying, man, you deserve the best. So if you're going to be in it,
right,
be in it like this so that you can flourish and be happy,
Right.
So
yeah, no, yeah. I want to just say for a second, ladies, like you deserve to live your life however you choose to live your life. We're just advocates for the liberation of women. We're advocates for healthy and happy relationships, not this toxic mess that's been spoon-fed to us since birth. So if you are in a relationship or want to be in a relationship, be happy and know that you deserve the absolute best.
Exactly.
And there should be no exceptions for that. My bad, Pooh.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
And being in a relationship and wanting to be equal is your right.
Right.
Just because you want to be in a relationship doesn't mean that you're not a feminist, or it shouldn't mean that you feel like you can't be a feminist. You know what I mean? Because all that is wanting the social, economic, and political freedom. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all it is. You know what I mean? So
defo. And to add on to that as well, like, I don't think I finished my point last time. I was speaking about, saying, how do I know when I'm in love? What does love mean? And obviously these are questions that weren't answered for us as children, and growing up in general, we just saw the things that they spoon fed us on TV and Disney. So this is why a lot of us are in such toxic relationships. Now, Pow, what we're trying to do here is actually be the voice that we needed when we were younger, to say, what does love look like? What is love? So we're sharing these things. This is why some of it might sound foreign, but we're sharing it because this is what we've learned along the way, that, wow, you know what? This relationship that they fed us on TV and they've tried to show us, they've tried to show us as the way, that's not how we're supposed to live. This other way, this works better for us. This is beneficial to us. So this is what to look for when you're looking for a healthy, loving relationship, because we didn't have that essentially. So this is literally all this space is doing.
It is.
So anyways, ladies, this was an amazing I'm glad. I hope you guys are glad to have us back. You've seen our faces. Season 2, the end of the first episode. Don't forget to follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We have a TikTok now. At the Pow Podcast. Yeah, follow us, like, comment, share, and we will speak to you guys again next week.
Bye, ladies.